Finding that relationship with God was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Better than when I made a half a million on a deal, better when my kids were born, better than when I married my wife. It is having a little buddy on your shoulder that's always with you. You're never alone. And he's always there to listen to you. He never argues with you. And his only request is if you sin, repent and change. What else can you ask for? Stop living in the past. That's depression. Stop living in the future. That's anxiety. Live now in your present. Presently, right now. I'm healthy. I'm safe. I'm alive. My kids are safe. My wife is safe.
Quick shout out to today's sponsor, Taylor. You know that feeling? You've got an important meeting, a first date, maybe a trip coming up, and you're standing in front of your closet thinking, I have nothing to wear, or I don't want to wear the same thing again, even though it's full of stuff. That's exactly what Taylor fixes. A real stylist learns your lifestyle, picks your outfits, and ships them to your door every month. You wear them, send them back, and they handle the rest. No shopping, no laundry, no stress. Head to taylor.style, taelor.style, and use code ERIC25 for $25 off your first month. Link in the description below. Joe, welcome to the World XP podcast. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Eric?
Good. Can't complain. Can't complain at all. Do you want to do a quick intro for the people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to sound cocky at all. This is just my accomplishments, what I've done. The owner of Ironhawk Financial, been in business for 23 years. I won 42 industry awards. I've been featured in International Business Times, Business Insider, Market Insider, The Daily Caller, the Marquise Who's Who, and the Congressional Library for 2023, which is right there. I'm on the cover of a bunch of magazines, which are somewhere in my desk. Oh, here they are. I'm on the cover of the who's who in building and construction, the top 40 under 40 for finance in the country. Have my own radio show, Money Talk with Ironhawk, which is going really well. I have written 3 books that are all on Amazon. Being Your Own Bank, There's a Better Way Than a 401k, and Long-Term Care Without Long-Term Pain, all 5-star rated books, sold thousands of copies. And if any of your listeners want them absolutely for free, I will send them to them if they send an email to info@ironhawkfinancial.com. But yeah, I've also have about 4,000 clients, $4 billion of protection rollovers in my career, A plus rated on the Better Business Bureau, zero complaints in my 23-year career. And I specialize in IULs, annuities, advanced markets, estate planning, tax planning, retirement planning, how to put $1 million of taxes in your pocket, and just copy what the rich people do, man. And they don't buy 401ks and IRAs. They don't hold gold and silver in their basement or in their closet. That's not what rich people do. And they leverage, they lean. And that's what I teach my clients, how to be their own bank, whether it's through real estate or through their death benefit inside their life insurance.
That's awesome. There's a lot in there for those listening that have no idea what any of the words meant. I might not have also known what any of those words meant. Nah, that's not really true. But we'll get into all of that. Question from the last guest. I think he said it somewhat tongue in cheek, but he said, "What's the meaning of life?" And I think from a success standpoint, but also like what drives you and what makes you go.
Whew. The meaning of life is very simple. It's to get close as you can to Jesus Christ. So when you pass, you get to heaven. Finding your spirituality, growing mentally, emotionally, physically, and all those are multipliers to your spiritual and financial health. It's being a good human, treating thyself and everybody else, thy neighbors as thyself. And it's doing the right thing and leaving this world a better place after you're gone than before you got here because you have a gift. And I died and came back to life. I grew up, I suffered, I was poor, I lived in an attic, parents divorced, mom wanted to kill me before I was born. So every day I have is a blessing, and I work my hardest to provide value, give. And what I found is when I started really honestly giving to people, God rewarded me literally tenfold. Went from making like 500K a year to over 5 million. And it just the more I give, the more it comes back to me. And I'm not giving to get. It's just how the universe works with the karmatic energies, frequency, vibrations, and it's tapping into that. And it's like figuring out who you are, what your skill sets are that God gave you, and maximizing that. And a lot of people are too scared. A lot of people are too scared to take that jump. They're too scared to do what's in their heart of what their dreams are because they sell their soul to a piece of paper called a corporation to work 9 to 5. And it's there's probably over 100 million people trapped like that. And I was blessed to know what I wanted to do at 13. And if you're young, that's the most important thing you can do is figure out what you want to, do. And, I have three children, 17, 14, and 11. And I tell them all the same thing. I said, there's three things that are important. Don't do drugs, stay out of jail, and don't knock anybody up before you're ready to marry them. If you do those three things, you're going to have a way better chance of being successful to the tune of over 90%. And again, meaning of life is sum all that up, get a close relationship to Jesus or whoever your God is. But I'm telling you, Jesus changed my life unbelievably, and I'm so thankful and proud he's in mine.
How and when did you find Jesus slash Christianity?
So, I was a Catholic. I'm Italian, Lombardi, right? Irish Catholic, Italian, Italian, Irish Catholic, right? So, it was, I wasn't into it. Literally, like the month before, they're like, you're about to be confirmed. They have to tell you, oh, you don't have to be here. I was like, skirt, I got the heck out. So I got baptized, but never confirmed by literally a month. I went there for what, 10 years. But I wasn't a big fan of the Catholic Church, to be honest. So, I turned me off. Sit down, stand up, kneel, sing a song you don't know anything about. Shake some stranger's hand for 4 seconds, and then turn around and kneel and stand up and pray and hum and sing again. So, it didn't really do anything to me. And what I found is that the spirituality, the self, we're all God's children, right? And if my three children are Joe's children, they have Joe's blood, right? They have some part of me in them. So if I have, again, I'm not God, but if I have God in me, I don't need to go to a human made place, right? That's just my path. There's people that love the church, and I'm not discounting that. It just wasn't for me. And so, I just found it really probably hardcore March of 2024. I mean, I'm on all the DraftKings commercials nationwide. I'm Joel in the pink suit. If you ever seen those infomercials, if your state has DraftKings. But I was gambling $13 million a year, so it was big. I was really big into it. I loved the high, the rush, and one day I ended up losing a lot of money, and I was very upset. And I got down on my knees and I prayed to God, and I haven't gambled on the app since in over 2 years. And there's been a lot of times in my life. I was heavy marijuana user back when I was younger, like 17 to 24. I smoked every day with a 3.66 GPA in finance and working full time at a bar, making over $1,000 cash at the Visine Cologne, and go right back to work. And I got on my knees one day when my mom was about to die, and it caused a really bad panic attack. Never had one in my life until that point. And I told my wife, call 911, I'm dying. And I really felt like I was dying. And she held me, got through it. I went to my son's room because my mom died 10/3/09 and my first child was born 11/3/09. So I just went into his room, which he wasn't born yet, but it had the cradle and all that stuff. And I got down on my knees. I said, God, if you make this feeling go away, I won't smoke. And I quit. And he made the feeling go away. And there's been multiple times in my life, battling addiction and different things because I just have an all or nothing personality. That's how I grew a national company. You have to have a certain twisted mind to really want to go all in when I already have everything I need. I could have retired at 37. I'm 41, just off my residuals off my book of business for doing this for 2 decades. But I just, wanted more legacy for my kids, and I would say the closest was March 24 because then I really started taking my health seriously. I was 40 pounds heavier. I started taking my mental and emotional role seriously. I took my responsibility as a father, even though I would call myself a great father. So they were born, coached them, always part of their lives, always at my daughter's dance stuff, drive them, totally involved in their lives. But at night I get overwhelmed, stressed out, and then me and the wife were, beefing, and we had a very poor marriage for a long time. And I met this guy, Dennis Williams. He owns Cash Map, great coworker that I do a lot of business with. I actually just brought him in as my CFO at Ironhawk. And he was my Bible study guy, and he taught me so much about the Bible and what God did and the power of your tongue and James verses 6 and all these different things that I realized that I was doing wrong. And just having that direct relationship to God, growing spiritually, right? The chakras, bringing yourself up, your frequency, your vibration, your energy. Working out. I work out 4 times a week now. I eat clean. I walk every day. I walked 2 miles today. I've walked 2 miles almost every day the last few weeks. And now the weather broke in Connecticut. And it's loving yourself, and it's when you put it all together, like it changes your life, and it's all good. It's all positive. It's all, and you learn about demons. I follow this Catholic priest. He's amazing. And he was on just Tucker Carlson recently, and I watched.
Rippinger.
Oh, love him.
Yeah.
Love him. Love him. He had that 4 hour podcast on another huge podcast thing. Watched every minute. Um, but just connecting, and learning, because they don't teach you this in education, right? What I specialize in, finance, they don't teach it. They don't teach you how to balance a checkbook. They don't teach you about taxes. They don't teach you about W-2 employee versus 1099. They don't teach you how to diversify your taxes, what an S corp is, what a C corp is, what an LLC is, how to put your kids on payroll, not to invest with the government. Like they don't teach you this stuff. The educational system is owned by the federal government, and the educational system tells you to invest with the federal government. 401ks, IRAs, SEP Simples pensions, college plans, 529s. And they're the worst, right? But it's on every level. Financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Look at the food they send us. Look at the sickness of COVID they unleashed on us and lied to us. It came from a bat supermarket when it came from the Wuhan lab. And all these things that they do, they look at history. Governments just murdered hundreds of millions of people. They're the biggest reason of human death is government. And we're supposed to be like, yeah, we trust our government. And most people do. And it's like, so it's the awakening, not to be cliche, the great awakening. But it really opened up my eyes, COVID, to the sense that, went down rabbit holes, 9/11, the Olympic, which is, not the Titanic, Federal Reserve, why that came about, you know, everything. But finding that relationship with God was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Better than when I made a 500,000 on a deal, better when my kids were born, better than when I married my wife. It is having a little buddy on your shoulder that's always with you. You're never alone. And he's always there to listen to you. He never argues with you. And his only request is if you sin, repent and change. What else can you ask for?
Yeah. I know quite a few people that grew up Catholic had a similar sort of I don't know, reaction or feeling about Catholicism that you did. But also one of the questions that comes to mind for me is how do you kind of square the circle of, right, Jesus was very poor, and then but also the reality of like stuff is expensive and we want to provide a life for our kids and we want to be in a situation where, like in your case, where you can give back to the community or give back to or support other people's local businesses and do all these things. And to do that, you have to accumulate some level of wealth and thing. So how do you kind of square that circle, just out of curiosity? Because it's something that I've often pondered.
Yeah, so how I do it is I sponsor a lot of children's youth sports, right? I was the poor fat kid growing up in Trumbull. I had no friends. I was grew up in an attic with no running water. I ate noodles and eggs with ketchup. I had hamburger helper without the hamburger meat. McDonald's was for 49-cent cheeseburger was a luxury, which was very rare. My mom took all our assets when she divorced my dad when I was 4. We had a TV, a truck, a blanket, and $500. And that's what we started our lives with, me and my dad. My own grandmother was like, don't expect me to be his mother. She was dealing with the death of her husband, death of her son from Agent Orange, my uncle. And so it was like a really bad, crazy thing. And I grew up insanely poor. And when you don't have resources, there's not much you can do. I mean, my feet were like this because my shoes were two size too small. My grandmother used to go to TJ Maxx and come back with a huge garbage bag full of clothes and spent $11.80. And I'm like, no. All misspelled Nautica, all purple sock, purple bright green when it wasn't cool. Like you go to Nike stores now, all that, lazy, oversized clothes and obnoxious colors are in. Well, I'll tell you, in the 90s, they were not in when I went to school. I was made fun of every day. So, what I decided, right, is I wanted to have a good quality of life, right? I have a very nice home. I have, my wife drives a new Escalade. I have a 600 horsepower Jaguar. But that's the only thing I bought myself, right? Shelter for my family, a nice, safe, reliable vehicle that they can get to and from sports, to and from dance. My daughter's on the USA tap team. We travel to Europe and compete annually in Prague, and Munich. So I wanted to first get my house in order, right? Because we're the only ones that can do that. So it was building a strong financial foundation, which is what I specialize in, using life insurance, disability, long-term care, critical illness, terminal illness. That's sue-proof, divorce-proof, can't lose, averaging 14% a year tax-free. And that's your bank, right? That's your financial foundation. Then it's from there, you're gonna have some business equity. You're gonna have some real estate, and then you get, like, you have some risk up here, more stocks, bonds, gold, crypto, and then you have luxury, right? Once your house is in order, like, the question I ask all my millionaire clients, and I have billionaire clients. I work with Fortune 500 companies. I work with sports athletes, where I'd sign NDAs, NCAs. And I ask them the same question, right? If I gave you $5 million today in cash, $100 bills, would it change your life? I've been doing this 23 years. I haven't had one yes. So there gets to a point of you just want to be financially free. And that's different for everybody. I have clients that are worth 500 grand and they're financially free. I have clients who are worth 2.8 million, they're financially free. I have a client who's worth 280 grand and he retired. And I'm like, how the hell are you going to retire on 280? But he lives very, very modestly, right? So how I looked at building wealth, and how it sort of contradicts the Bible, which is what, man-made. This is devil-made. We're in the devil's world here. And in order to get to heaven, you have to elevate your spirit, because your flesh craves, the stuff on earth, and your spirit craves your Father, Jesus, God, the trilogy. So how I looked at it is, I'm going to get my three children right, but I don't want them spoiled, right? I do not want to raise spoiled, entitled, unaccountable children. Hell no. So, I make sure that they appreciate everything they have. I make sure, we pray, we have dinner, we sit down, we hold hands, we pray to God for what we have, the blessings that God gave me, which allowed me to generate wealth and revenue for my family. And then you give back. But a lot of people, they just give back with a check. I give back with time. Time
Mm,
is your most valuable asset. So I coach all the sports, I sponsor all I go out of town. Like, I live in Cheshire, Connecticut. It's a very uppity, woo, white collar, and I'm a blue collar guy, but it's really snooty, people in this town. It's the Greenwich of New Haven County. So when I put my kids in sports, we go to Hamden, right? Hamden is a way less impoverished city, wealthy city, more impoverished. And, I coach with them, and I invest my Saturdays, and I help them, and I sponsor 5 teams, 10 teams, at $200 a clip. And I try not to invest in things for a selfish way. Like, I'm going to sponsor a golf tournament. Why? So my logo could be there and millionaires can call me. Well, that's self-serving. That's not giving anything. So it's giving your time, energy, and money into things that help other people. Like, what my ultimate goal is, create a 501c, and I want to go, especially start in Connecticut, and just sponsor. There's a lot of low income towns here, believe it or not, because when there's wealth in the state, there's a lot of unwealth in the state. Look at the casinos. Around the casinos, nothing but poor people. Go to Atlantic City.
yeah.
Go drive a block away from each casino. It's straight poverty, because the casino sucks all the money from the city. So I wanted to give back. So my 501c is going to be sponsoring teams, going after underprivileged youth, get them off the streets, got to put a basketball in their hand, put a football in their hand, put a baseball in their hand. And my last name's Lombardi. My great grandfather's brother was Super Bowl champion Vince Lombardi. That's what my grandmother told me. So these are things that I want to use, that and really give back, but not just with money, because anyone can write a check, but with time, mental capacity, and using my team, my CFO, CMO, COO that I built for Ironhawk, to help build that as well as an important piece of my company.
Mm. Yeah, that makes total sense. I want to go, we kind of cycled back a little bit to why and how you started Ironhawk, and you mentioned you wanted to know or you knew what you wanted to do since you were 13. I can imagine some of the reasons why. But where did the education start from the standpoint, like you mentioned, nobody learns about taxes in school or even how to invest generally. Like you mentioned about 401ks and IRAs. Yeah, maybe they're not, there are better things that you could do. But generally speaking, if people did that, that would be a better start than where most of them are, give or take. And and so like where did your education like where did you even know where to start with all that? Because there's so many things out there, so many vehicles, so many assets, so many asset classes, so many different strategies that you can do. Like where did you even start?
Great question. So when I was 13, my father did a job for CEO Coca-Cola, CEO of the NFL, Paul Newman, really, because Fairfield is where I grew up, and then Greenwich was just a couple towns away, and that's one of the richest towns in the United States of America. And he did a lot of remodels there and really grew his business. So one of the days, like, hey, hop in the truck, we got to go check a job. So it was me and him, right? And that's all it was. My grandmother didn't want to be there. My mom was just partying, doing drugs. That's why she died at 52, cirrhosis of liver, with no life insurance. But so, it's one of those things where I was with my dad. He's like, hey, go play with the son. I drive in, mansion in Greenwich, like that. Those are it's one thing of the nicest house like a NFL player would have or on MTV Cribs. Like that's the type of stuff I walked into on a daily basis with my dad. But this one was different. Like I was like, so he's like, go, here's Johnny. I forgot the kid's name. Go play with him. I'm like, okay. So he hits a button to get an elevator. Why are we going in an elevator, right? In his house? I'm like, okay. So I was in there, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, where the hell are we going? Like, we go underground, the doors open up, and there's a baseball field under the house. Let me repeat
Yeah.
that. A baseball field underground with lights, a basketball court over there. And I'm like, did I die? Like what? So like,
It's
I
bananas.
it was like Chuck E. Cheese on steroids. Some of these guys' money's like people have bunkers. This guy's bunker was a baseball field. I was like, this is insane. So, like I had a blast. We're hitting balls, either pitching thing, or we're shooting basketballs. I felt like a Chuck E. Cheese on steroids, right? Back then. So to make a long story short, because I can go on and on and on about this story. And I get back in the car and I'm like, hey dad, what does that guy do? He says he works on Wall Street. I'm 13. I don't know what the heck that means at all. And I'm like, I want to work on Wall Street because I want that quality of life, right? Fast forward 6 years, or yeah, about 6 years later, I'm bartending in Westport, another very rich town in Connecticut. They make like TV shows, Westport CT. And there's this place called Sakura, very expensive, high-end hibachi place, right? And Martha Stewart came in there regularly. Paul Newman, went there a lot. So I'm doing my thing. I'm making a boatload of cash I paid my way through college, working full time, college full time. Then I served this nice gentleman and his wife, and he's like, dude, this was the best service I ever had. Here's $1,000 tip on like $100 bill. And I'm like, my manager's gonna have to okay that, so I'm not trying to rob you or something. So make a long story short, he goes, "You're coming to work with me." And this guy was like the CEO of a Northwestern Mutual office in Westport. I was right down the street from Sakura. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm, getting into my business. I'm studying finance at Southern Connecticut State University, where I met my wife first day orientation. That's a whole nother story. And so I was like, okay. And so at 19 years old, I got in the business. And so you get in the business, and in order to sell permanent life insurance, you have to know a lot. You have to know a lot about taxes, market, investments, dividends, mutual companies versus non-mutual companies, non-direct recognition versus direct recognition for loans, loan rates, interest rates, inflation. So I just started studying my butt off, and I ended up passing all my tests. I got my Series 6, 63, 65, life and health, property casualty. I went all in because that's just my personality. And so I learned a lot. And then I found a top producer there and I said, teach me. And he goes, I'm not teaching you unless you do what? Bring me business.
Mm,
So I just started
that's usually
prospecting.
usually how it goes.
Right. So I just started driving on I-95, which is a big vein in Connecticut that basically goes from New York City all the way to Boston. And I just started driving up and down the roads 100 miles an hour until I saw a truck, ABC Electric, 123 Plumbing, John's Contracting. And I would pull behind them. Why? Because there's a cell phone number on every one of those trucks. And I call him up and I say, hey, my father fell 3 stories. His name was JV Lombardi Builders. Do you know him? And a lot of people knew my dad. JV Lombardi Builders, a big business. I say he lost everything. He ended up falling 3 stories, and that, it's a big part of my why. So I was like, hey, my dad fell 3 stories. Can I buy you a cup of coffee at the next exit at the Dunkin' Donuts? Can I buy you a breakfast sandwich, a bagel? And a lot of people were like, sure. So I would, get off the highway, shake their hand. I'm in my suit. I had a beat up old Chrysler Sebring, but they didn't care. They're in a beat up work truck. And I would just, draw on napkins, I'd draw circles and tax triangles and everything they taught me, right? I would draw, there's 3 places to put your money, tax me later, tax me never ever again, tax me 3 times. This is where most Americans put their money, and they're triple taxed. It's the worst place. And then I show them the foundation of life insurance. If you live, you tax-free pension. If you die, there's benefit to your family. If you get disabled, it's paid for. If you need long-term care. So, and I asked all these business owners the same question. Do you have life insurance? 90% of the time, the answer is no. 10% of the time is I'm on my wife's group term, or that's it. So, and it's like 50 grand. And I'm like, how much do you make a year? They're like 100, 200, 500. I say, what's 50 grand going to do? You covered 6 months, and then what's your wife going to do? Right. So they're like, you're right. And I said, you have disability. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, you're the golden goose, right? You're providing the income, and you have all these eggs that you're insuring, the house, the car, the business vehicle, the umbrella, but you're not insuring the golden goose. If someone has a golden goose, all your assets are gone, right? And then as I got older, I said, if you had a machine in the basement pumping out 320 grand a year, your annual income, would you insure the machine? And it's like, hell yeah, I would. I'm like, you're the machine. And they're
Mm,
like, oh. So then I started selling a boatload of disability. And then they would talk to their friends. And the electrician knows a plumber knows a roofer knows a mason knows a painter knows a drywaller. And I just got in heavy in Fairfield County, like just with all the contractors. Everyone knew me. That's why I'm on the cover of the, you know, who's who in building and construction. Like, what the heck is a financial planner doing on a building and construction magazine? Because that was my main market, blue collar business owners, because all the to-do financial advisors, the financial planners, the driving their Mercedes and their Lambos are like, oh, dirty contractors. I don't make no money. They're alcoholics. They beat their wives. I don't mess with that. And for me, it was like I looked at everyone like they were my father, and my father didn't have it, and he fell through stores and lost everything. So it was one of those things where my why was so strong, and people saw the conviction, what I was trying to do, which is protect children, protect non-working spouses or low income spouses that were usually teachers, or they were nurses to the husband of the contractor or the business owner. And so I just started doing a bunch of home shows, and they have home and garden shows. There's a group of 100. The public walks in that wants to get a kitchen done. They want to get a bathroom fixed. They want to get their roof done. They want solar, and all those guys are there. So I'm like, this is beautiful. So there's 100 business owners with no gatekeeper, right? Because usually they'd be like, is Tom there? And they'd be like, Tom, there's a Joe Lombardi from insurance. I'm not here. I'm like, I heard that, Sarah. Like, I know he's there. Right. So you didn't have the gatekeeper. So I would go right up to him, like, hey, you want to save $1 million in taxes? And everyone's like, yeah. I'm like, stop investing in IRAs and 401ks and start investing in IRS code section 7702 instead of IRS code 401k. And it's gonna give you tax free, no 59 and a half year rule. Wall Street's not stealing 50% of your money on the way out, and the federal and state governments aren't stealing 50% of your money on the way out. And so people were like, yes, 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 4x your return. You can leverage it to buy vehicles, and there's all these cool things you can do with it if it's built right with the right carrier, the right sub accounts, the right structure. So I just started building and building 500 clients, 1,000 clients, 2,000 clients, 3,000 clients, 4,000 clients. And it just kept growing. And people were like, got to call Joe and set up all their banks. And I have clients that leverage them to buy $10 million developments. I have people that use it to buy a $10,000 vehicle for their son. And instead of paying Ford of America 8.99 or Lexus 10.99%, they're the bank and they pay zero. They actually make money on the loan historically. So they have a negative interest rate of return on their money. So it's just about education, which again, government owns the educational system. Educational system tells you to invest in the government. It's a monopoly. And it's they want you smart enough to go work and dumb enough to realize you're not being robbed with your slave number, aka your social security number.
mm. So, lot there for sure. So, for those listening, And when I mentioned 401ks and IRAs earlier, I noticed that kind of gave a little shake of your head. But from like a Roth perspective, you don't get taxed on the way out. It's probably is
Correct.
better.
100%.
Um, but let's start with the insurance piece. You mentioned a couple different terms. You mentioned group term, life, disability, a few other things in there. Can you, for people listening, like define those and kind of describe what maybe they might hear in contemporary media, but then how you would use them as well and like what the differences are.
So what you're going to hear is the Dave Ramsey Ameriprise strategy, because Dave Ramsey was a Ameriprise agent or worked with the guy, his partner on this first show was straight Ameriprise. Buy term, invest a difference. It's the easiest thing to sell to the public. You make a lot of money, but it's not the best thing for the clients, in my opinion, doing this for 23 years. So the buy term, invest a difference strategy doesn't work. Why? Well, number one is term's going to expire. And then now you're 50, 60, 70, and you're uninsurable. So now you're leaving no legacy. Well, Joe, I don't need insurance when I'm 50, 60, or 70. Like, yes, you do. You need to protect your spouse. You need to protect your grandkids. Nobody turns 70 and 75 and is like, screw my grandkids. It's a new birth. All the errors they did on their children, they want to leave something to their grandkids. How do I know that? I don't know. I talked to 10,000 70-year-olds. They all said the same thing. So that whole buy term invest a difference, he's talking to 20 to 40-year-olds that are like, yeah, I already have auto insurance and health insurance and homeowners insurance. I don't need that insurance crap. I'm insured up the butt. And however, this is an asset, right? Most insurance on the asset T chart is a liability. This is an asset. This is something you can leverage. You can lean. It's cash. You can, when the market crashes, you can pull out money and buy Bitcoin at 30 grand. You could buy your neighbor's real estate if it's in foreclosure for pennies on the dollar, because usually what happens, market goes down, banks tighten, you can't get a loan, and then the price of everything goes down. Well, the people that are holding cash, powder, those are the ones that double, triple their money. Perfect example. I had a client who owned seven dealerships in 2008. Well, if you knew Harley stock in 2008, it almost went to zero. Harley almost went bankrupt. So he was like great grandfather's lineage in the Harley place. So he was like, Harley's never going away, right? I'm all in on Harley. So he had about 300 grand that he saved up with me. And in this example was a whole life, but now I'm doing more index universal lives for a lot of variable reasons. And so he's like, Joe, what can I take out? I'm like, you take out about 300,000 in cash. He goes, done, give me the check. Okay, they deposited $300,000 tax free into his account. He opened up a brokerage account and bought all Harley stock. Bought them for pennies on the dollar. Make a very long story short, 17 months later after doing that, he turned 300 grand to $3.2 million. Cashed out, put the 300 grand back in, and bought eight more Harley dealerships with that profit. So he basically over doubled his net worth, doubled his stores, and by the time 5 years went by, his net worth was roughly around 3 million. He jumped it to 11 million. One thing he did. He couldn't do that in a 401k. He couldn't do that in a Roth IRA. He couldn't do that in an IRA because you have 10% penalties, federal tax, state tax, even on a Roth IRA. You have a federal and state tax on early distribution for 59 and a half. So it allowed him, which nobody else did because everyone else owned IRAs. And no one's going to sell Apple at minus 50% to buy Google at minus 50%. You're not going to sell Google at minus 50% to buy a distressed real estate deal for minus 50%. It makes no sense. You
Yeah.
level. But if you're
So
guaranteed
how did
not
he
to
get
lose,
so how do
go
you
ahead.
get to there? Like I think for people listening, that's the part where they say like, okay, life insurance, and now I'm pulling 300 grand out. Like what's the in between? Like how does it work? Because I think like I have some idea, but for people listening that are now completely lost, or like how does that even happen? Like describe that part for them.
So inside, I'm gonna quote Index Universal Life, right? IULs, right? Those are, in my opinion, the most superior products, even a whole life. I switched over 1,000 whole life holders that I sold them whole life and switched them to IULs. And so how it works is you put in a monthly or annual contribution, right? If I'm going to quote the IUL, you have a range. You could put 5,000 bucks up to let's say 50,000 bucks a year. Let's say the policy needs 2,500 bucks a year. Okay, so 200 bucks a month. Well, if you put in 2,000 bucks a month or 1,000 bucks a month or even $500 a month, all the extra money you put in is going to go directly into option contracts. Now, this is where, phew, over people's head, what the hell is an option contract? So, have you ever seen the movie The Big Short? Right? The guy bet against the mortgage-backed industry, made $1 billion, right? That's an option contract. That's a short. That means he was betting on things going down and he won. So you could bet on things going up, you could bet on things going down. They're derivatives, right? So if you mirror the value of 7702, which is a wrapper around your money, it's very similar to 401k. It's an IRS code that's a wrapper around your money, has rules. So the rules in a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a 529, those are all tax codes very high on the tax code book. This code is 7,702, way down the bottom of the code book for the wealthy. Think of it if the wealthy could create their own 401k and then pay Congress to be like, put this through for us, but don't tell everybody. That's what that code is.
You said
It's embedded
7,000?
7702. Yep,
7,702. I'm about to write that
7,702.
down for myself.
Yeah, so that code has made many of millionaires over the many a million. I can't even count the million. You're talking about a $10 billion annual contribution business. Then you marry that with annuities, a $500 billion business. So you're thinking, where are all these billions coming from? Well, they're not coming from the general public on average. They're coming from, I don't know if you've ever heard, like BOLI, bank-owned life insurance.
Mm-mm.
Banks don't even keep their money in banks. Let me repeat myself. Banks don't keep their money in banks. Banks keep their money in life insurance. Wait, but that's where they tell us peasants, to put our money. Yes, that's where the peasants put their money in banks. But banks, millionaires, billionaires, how could they with a 250,000 FDIC insurance? Why would they if they're worth $1 billion? So what they do and what banks do is they buy a policy. And let's say Wells Fargo owes Bank of America $1 billion for the bank run at the end of the day, right? End of the week. Eh, Too many people took distributions out of Wells Fargo. Nobody took money out of Bank of America. Wells Fargo's low on money. Bank of America's here. Here's, $2.8 billion. Well, they're not going to do that in a bank because it takes a week to transfer. It's got to clear. It's got to do this. So they loan it from one life insurance policy to the other, right? So that's sort of what has happened in our banking industry that nobody knows about. No, look up BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. So this is what banks do. This is what billionaires do. This is what CEOs do. This is what the Rockefeller strategy has. It has that in there. So how it works, you just put money in. Every month your account goes up or it stays the same because you're guaranteed not to lose. Now, the company I'm quoting now, let's say National Life Group, their 15 and 20-year historical averages are 14.81 and 14.82 annual compounding tax-free returns. Put that into a rule of 72 calculator. So when you understand that these strategies are earning on average four times the S&P 500, four, that's two, but the S&P 500 is taxable because you own it in a brokerage, you own it in an IRA, you own it in a 401k, you own it in a Roth. Okay, well at least it's not taxable there, but you can't touch it at 59 and a half. And you can lose if the market goes down. Here you can't lose contractually in writing. So you overfund it. Think of a term policy is $100 a month. If you put in $2,000 a month, where's that $1,900 go? Goes into the option contracts. And they're averaging double-digit returns. Allianz, another really good company that I have a strong relationship with, and I'm just a broker. I don't work for any carriers. I work for my clients. I own Ironhawk Financial. So you overfund those policies. By overfunding those policies, you're creating a huge pile of cash for you that's compounding daily. And it's just growing, right? And so what is the sixth wonder of the world? Compound interest. How do I know that? Look at your mortgage. You bought your house for 300 grand, you're paying the bank 900 grand over 30 years. That's called the power of compounding. That's hurting you. Why don't you build some of it that's helping you? And why not handcuff it to your 59 and a half with a 10% penalty? And let's kick Wall Street out. 12B1 fee, Class A share fund fee, money manager fee, annual account fee, mutual fund expense fee, or flat AUM fee, assets under management. Let's kick them out. What's 1.5% of fees annually times 30 years?
A lot.
Over 50% because it's on the whole value of it. And then when you take distributions, let's kick out the state and federal government. They're not getting a penny. So you don't have to now go in bed or in business with the government, which if you lose all your money, they're not replacing it. And if you do really well, they're going to take more. You're going to kick them out. And that's what the wealthy people do. They kick out Wall Street, they kick out the federal and state, governments legally. They lean the money out when they need it. That's what rich people do. That's when Hillary and Trump were on stage, and Hillary's like, "Show us your tax returns, Donald," in 2016. And Donald's
Hmm.
like, "I'm not going to show you my tax return. I don't pay any taxes. I use the same IRS codes that your donors use, and you had 30 years to close the loophole, Hillary, and you didn't." I can't believe that over 100 million people saw that and nobody started Googling what does Donald Trump do. Weirdest thing ever. But that's what I do for my clients. I show them legally, which is absolutely free, by the way. I never charged a client $1 in 23 years for my service, and I never lost a client $1 in 23 years for my service. And I have a huge team now because I've trained people to do what I do throughout the country. So it's one of those things where I'm just trying to help people. I'm trying to free them from slavery, to get kicked the government out because I love my country, but I hate my government. Government doesn't listen to me. They don't represent me. They don't take what I want to seriously. And you can't have one congressman for every million people and think you have a voice. You can't have one senator for every 10 million people almost, I think it's 6.5 million people, and think you have a voice. You don't and you won't. So you have to take it, you have to take back the power. You have to critically think, and you have to stop relying on a government, which is the most deadliest entity in the world historically by numbers and facts. They've killed almost 500 million people. You have to say, God gave me this gift. I love myself enough. Because then people think about money. Money's all about how you feel about you. That's what money is. I have clients that makes $750,000 a year and they're broke. They're broke. If you gave them 7 million, they'd be broke. You hear those stories? Oh, I won the lottery of 100 million and I'm broke in 3 years. Not even broke. I'm bankrupt. I'm negative after winning 100 million. And then I have clients. One client makes 83,000 a year. Other client makes 50,000 a year, and they're worth $5 million because they have discipline and they understand and they research and they critically think and they're able to make good financial decisions based on the markets, or they have guys like me. And how the rich people get so rich, they have estate planning attorney, tax attorney, CPA, insurance agent, financial planner, investment advisor. What does your team look like? I watch
Whoa.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck. So it's one of those things where I try and I've worked in Wall Street. I've been in those 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 figure deals where they're transferring money. They're buying eyelid trust, irrevocable life insurance trust to avoid estate taxes. They're doing all types of super complicated strategies that make people's heads hurt. And I've been in those rooms for years and years and years. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, right? So legally I can't give advice, but I can say, listen, this is what these guys are legally doing, and this is something you could do your own research on. And people are like, yes, Joe, I want to work with you. And they roll all the retirement money over with me. And then I start new plans with the money they were putting in what I call dirty dollars in taxable, 50% of your money doesn't belong to you, a dirty bowl of water. And now my clients have clean, fresh cash water that they could drink it and it's all theirs.
Mm. So this, hmm. So there's a lot. Okay, I've got a lot of thoughts on that. Some which I thought that I knew about certain things, which I don't anymore. Um, Others. So okay, so for the we just talked about life. That was life insurance, right? The one that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how I wanna do this because there's so much information, there's so much good information, but I want to basically package it in a way that people can
Digest
be
it,
digest it and then
utilize it.
take action. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So, okay. So in terms of structure of people's finances, in terms of accounts and things that they should have, like if you were advising maybe somebody in their maybe mid 20s who's just out of college and they're working their 9 to 5 and but they want to be financially free, what are the things that you would advise? Well, let's not use the word advise, recommend that
I
they
gotcha.
set up and in what order and kind of how should they go about like prepping themselves for the long haul?
So that's very simple. Okay. Step number one is you are the only person that's going to worry about your future self. And God gives you a present every moment of your life. And they even call it the present. So what you do is you don't put yourself in debt. College loans, mortgages, car notes, credit cards, because all you're doing is you're enslaving your future self. If you ever read the Bible, there's this word called usury, which was illegal. That's why the Jewish people never had a country up till what, 1940? That over 1800 years, never had a country ever. Why? Because they believed in charging interest. Well, Christian colonies did not. It was against the law. So what happened in the United States, which I don't want to go too deep on that. I believe there's a lot of demonic possession going on in our country. I believe it started with the Federal Reserve and taxes, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But what we have to deal with today, I'm young, I'm 25. Get out of debt. Number two is every dollar you make, 10% goes into an overfunded index universal life policy if you're insurable. It's the best long-term asset. And men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. I can show you numbers, right? So, well, the 401k, if I invested in Nvidia and Apple, and if I bought Bitcoin at $100, yeah, and if my grandmother was my grandfather, she would have a you know what. So what I do is I take a look at exactly what you can do. What the average person needs to do is they need to not fall for debt. Okay? Save it up, pay for it. I use the envelope strategy. I'm aging myself because that's when I used to get paid cash. Now we're in a cashless basically society. So um, you get your check in for $1,000 a week, whatever it is, net $100 of that, put it away. I don't care where you put it. First thing you're going to put is pay off high interest debt. Number one, get out. I call that cancer. You can't have a healthy body or a healthy financial life if you have cancer. And what cancer does, it multiplies, right? Cancer cells, because we all have cancer cells in our bodies. We all do. And that's where we store all the junk and debris and smells and the pollution in the water and the food and the air. Our body stores them. And then you'll get the autopsy. It says, oh, I think you have cancer. And then what do? They squish your boob and pop it, and then it goes through your whole body and you die. That's a whole nother story. So knowing we have cancer, right? Everyone does. You don't want to be adding more into your life, right? So what you want to do is you want clean. Everything's clean, right? Clean. I want to wake up tomorrow and what I earn is mine. There is like a statistic that's something along the lines of like 30% of 18-year-olds are worth more than 50-year-olds. Because just being worth zero is 50% of the population is even worth zero. Like that's crazy. Like that's what's your net? Like what are you worth? Oh, negative 83,000. Like what? Yeah, that's yeah. My home equity is 20 grand, but I owe Citibank 30 grand in a credit card. I have a student loan for 70 grand. I'm like you literally you're not even worth nothing. You're worth negative, right? So don't do that. That's kind of bad. So what you do is you don't fall for the debt trap, which is what is taught in our schools. You have literally teachers telling 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, go to college. I don't know what I want to do. Go study gender studies, get $250,000 in debt, and use a degree that's worthless. You're going to be able to do drugs, drink alcohol, and have unprotected sex with a bunch of people your age. It's a big party. That's what college is. They literally rank the number one colleges as party colleges. That's a thing, believe it or not. It's in magazines. So it's like, do I want to spend $250,000 on a party? You can buy a Subway for that, and at 18 years old, you can start making profit immediately, right? So I told my kids, hey, don't go to college unless you want to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, where you need college. Nobody needs college. I don't need college to do what I do. I could have dropped out of high school, which I didn't, but I could be a high school dropout and do what I do. And I managed $4 billion of protection rollovers in my 23-year career. You don't need it. There's so many careers you don't need degrees. So number one is don't fall for the trap of, oh, I want to go to college because my parents told me I should. Well, unless you have a detailed plan, a business plan on how you are going to utilize your $250,000 loan, what degree you're going to have, what job you're going to get into, how you're going to pay it off. Are you going to work during college to not incur so much? Are you going to get out of college with a $3,000 to $4,000 a month payment? How are you gonna buy a house? You're not. You're gonna live with your freaking parents till you're 40. So these are the things that young people need to be taught, and they're not. They're taught the opposite, which I call our culture upside down, right? What's good is bad and what's bad is good most
Yeah.
of the time, right? When Congress comes out with a new law, it's like Save the Children law, and it literally murders kids. They'll be like, blue is the best color, and it literally eliminates the color blue from everything in the world.
Yeah, here,
Like literally,
Patriot Act is a very good example. We
yeah,
want to be
literally, it,
patriotic and we're going to spy on everybody. So,
uh-huh, which is what
yeah.
patriots apparently do. Yeah, okay. And I live in Connecticut, the Constitution state, and I just read an article before I got on this that they want to get rid of Glocks out of our state. But yet we're the Constitution state in Connecticut. That's our Second Amendment, by the way, buddy. So these are the things where you need to get out of debt, number one. Number two, 10% of everything you earn needs to be invested. I don't care what the hell you invest in. Buy XRP, buy Bitcoin, buy Apple, buy Google. If you don't like the IUL, it's too overcomplicated. I don't care. Just invest in something. I highly recommend you do a brokerage over an IRA or 401k because that's going to tie your money up for 40 years. And that's not going to help you while you're building your business, while you're building your career, while you're growing within your field at a corporation. If you are a W-2 employee, it's not going to help you. It's not. So what's going to happen is you are going to take money out, and it's going to be when there's a correction in the market, a depression or a recession. You're going to be laid off. You're going to pay federal tax, state tax, FICA, Medicare, unemployment, Social Security tax, and a 10% penalty and a market loss. So you're going to get about a third of your money when you need it, pre-retirement, a third. So that's where I don't advise my any young people. I do have 18, 19, 20-year-olds. All three of my kids, right when they were born, I got them overfunded ULs. My 16-year-old's gonna be 17 in November, has close to a $500,000 in cash, and he's 16. I used that to buy him his Porsche when he turned 16. I leaned it. So he's still earning interest on the 20 grand. No, I didn't buy him a new one. So it's one of those things where you just lean and leverage. That's what wealthy people do. How does Donald Trump not pay taxes? Because he leans real estate, home equity lines of credit. If I have a $10 million building, I can pull out 9 million in cash and pay $0 in taxes legally. Yeah, well, Joe, I don't have a $10 million building. So create your own. Buy a $5 million life insurance policy for 500 bucks a month and lean and leverage the money as it grows and compounds at any stage in your life for any reason. You can call me up and say, Joe, I want to go to Vegas and get girls and drugs. Like, okay, it's cash. You do whatever you want with it. There's no rules. So like that is number one. Number one, get out of debt. Number two, put 10% away. My recommendation is an overfunded 7702 plan, but hey, Bitcoin and XRP is not a bad idea either. Any tech, AI, any of those things, invest in that. Like, cool. Like, as long as you do it properly, brokerage, Robinhood, cool. Number three is once you start having if you choose to have a family, you choose to have children, get life insurance, get disability, get long-term care, get them all while you're young and pay pennies on the dollar. Don't wait until you're unhealthy, 100 pounds overweight, high blood pressure, cholesterol, car accident, four medications because doctors give out drugs like they're candy to everybody. And life insurance companies don't like that. They will make you pay double, triple, quadruple the amount at the somebody your same age who's not taking that stuff. So lock it in your 20s, you're done. And then leverage it. If you need the cash, pull it out, right? Because what people don't understand is most Americans, what they do is they invest all their money in an asset that can all correlate it. Their home, their car, their business if they own one, their retirement, their 401k, their brokerage account, their gold and silver account, their crypto at Robinhood. It's all correlated. They move in the same direction. When the market goes down, they all go down. You have no diversification. Nobody owns bonds anymore because the government had interest rates hit zero. And they told financial planners, because at that point I had all my securities licenses, and I was like, yeah, bonds are worthless. Interest rates, they're paying nothing. And then what happens is if bonds aren't there, I'm meeting 70-year-olds with retirement accounts like they were 20, 100% in high volatile tech stock. I'm like, Brad, you're 70. What are you doing? Like you need to access this money like tomorrow. You have RMDs, require minimum distributions coming up in 24 months. What are you doing? I don't know another way, and I'm doing good. I said, yeah, you got lucky at the casino. That doesn't mean you did the right thing. Somebody can accidentally push $1,000 spin on a machine and hit a bonus, but the
Yeah.
other 9,000 people that push it and lose all their money go, oops. So it's one of those things where you really have to prepare, care about your finances because really nobody does, care about your health because most Americans don't. We're the most unhealthiest population in the world. We pay the number one amount of money in education, but yet we're 27th in math, 26th in social studies, 24th in science, but we spend the most money. Can you imagine being a car company? Oh yeah, we spend $1 billion a year on cars and we don't sell any. And what? They
Yeah.
fall apart. Tires fall out. We have recalls left and right. The engines fall out of the car every after 5,000 miles. That's us.
Yeah. So to summarize, get out of debt, invest 10% in something, life insurance and disability for whatever eventuality, and then also the asset to use it, and then health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have a strong relationship with God.
Yeah. I think that's a good summary. Okay, as far as the economy goes as a whole, because you give me lots to look into. I think for those listening, probably on either go start doing research and some other things. I think is a good foundation of people to go look into without kind of being completely overwhelming. Um, but as far as the economy as a whole, in terms of the banking system, Federal Reserve, there's things moving around. The I asked somebody who's kind of in the hedge fund world. It's like, okay, so at what point, since everybody seems to be in debt to everybody else, and it's just a circle that's going around, at what point can somebody no longer pay the debt and the whole thing comes crashing? Like the U.S. is $40 trillion in debt. It doesn't seem sustainable to me. And I haven't really gotten a straight answer other than, well, the U.S. is what's the phrase that they use? Too big to fail, just like with the big banks in '08, right? Again, to me, it doesn't clock. But what are your thoughts on this situation?
Well, number one, there's this thing called the Dodd-Frank Act, which your listeners need to chat GPT that, where the government can go into any bank account and clear you out, take all your money.
Hmm.
So the safest place to put your money right now, not even close, is insurance companies. Every dollar legally an insurance company accepts, they have to keep in their general account. Banks, when they get a dollar, they get to micro lend it out. Meaning, if they get a dollar put into the deposit in the bank, they can take 90 cents, lend that to Sarah. Where does Sarah put the 90 cents? In the bank. Then the bank lends out 81 cents to Brian. Where does Brian put the 81 cents? Brian puts in the bank. Then the bank lends 72 cents to Melissa. Where does Melissa put the money? In the bank. So
Yeah.
literally, we are so over leveraged. Our PE ratios on the stock and the stock market are the higher than 2008. So right now we've gotten to the point of, in my opinion, no return in debt, in over leverage. More money was printed during COVID, which devalued our dollar. We're seeing hyperinflation. We're seeing house values doubling in 5 years. We saw Nvidia double almost in 14 months. These people have nowhere to put their money. They're like, what do I do with it? The rich people. They're like, I'll buy more real estate. Well, real estate shoots up. I'll buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin went to 120,000 a coin. I'll put it in gold and silver. Gold and silver spiked to $4,000 an ounce, and it was $2,600 an ounce like 6 months ago. Like, so we're seeing the what I call symptoms of a bubble. I don't know
Hmm.
what you call it.
Yeah.
My
No, I
house I
I
bought for
agree.
47.5. It's now worth over $1 million. Why? I lived here for 10 years. I mean, yes, I souped the living crap out of it, but the census didn't know that on Zillow. So,
Yeah.
I didn't pull zoning. No, I did. I did. So these are things where what I'm telling my clients to do is put your money in annuities. I just rolled over all my Guardian pensions, my Guardian 401ks I had when I worked because they deposited money in there. When I worked at Mass Mutual, I deposited all those into an annuities. I've put my money in Allianz Life. They're a $1.2 trillion insurance company. They're out of Europe, so you're not even dealing with the American BS going on right now with the war in Iran. Very safe. They give you 15% on your money day one. So you roll $1 million, they'll give you 150 G's in your account, cash, real money, day one. And then their Morgan Stanley funds averaging 13.98% annual compounding in their Morgan Stanley fund over the last 10 years. So that's almost 4x's your money every 10 years. No risk. Guaranteed not to lose in writing. Works as a trust, legally avoids probate, and legally avoid it's incontestable. So these are strategies made by millionaires and billionaires for millionaires and billionaires. That's where you should put your money if you're a thousandaire. Put your 20 grand in there. Put your 50 grand in there. It's better there than it is in the traditional system because that is, in my opinion, going to fail. You can't stress out a system to the point of no return. We saw it in '01. We saw it in '08. We saw it a little bit of it in 2022. We saw it in COVID. And then what did Donald Trump do? He just wrote a check to the airlines. But when he said airlines, he meant the entire market, but just didn't tell us. So these are the things that I don't think we could just keep writing checks out of it. It gets to a point where it's like you're paying dirty money to pay off dirty money. You're taking dirty money and using that to pay off dirty. There's no more clean money. All of our clean money goes to interest.
Yeah.
So what I'm telling my clients to do is protect yourself from a huge crash. Keep your money liquid. Have the ability to lean it out. Home equity lines, have an open revolve. If you own a house, have a free open revolving line of credit. Even if it's 250, 150, whatever, have it open. Just cuz. You want to buy low, sell high. That's how generational wealth is made within 2 weeks. 90% of generational wealth has been made in a day, meaning they saw Bitcoin go from 120 down to 55. They bought in at 55, rode it back up to 120, sold, doubled, over doubled their money and doubled their net worth and left. So you want to buy low, sell high. You want to have your money out of traditional banking, out of traditional investments, government stuff. Get out of it. Go to the private sector. You know what the private sector do? You have hundreds of billion-dollar companies fighting for your dollar. Do you know what that's called? Competition. Is there any competition in the government? They're a monopoly. Aren't monopolies bad? I mean, the government, I've watched Senate hearings. Monopolies are bad. But you are a monopoly. What the hell are you talking about? So get your money out of the monopoly, which is too big to fail. Put it in insurance companies because not only do they keep $1 in there, they have dividends they have to legally pay you, whether you use them in whole life and just take it as cash, like a bond, or you use your dividends to buy option contracts. That's a better long-term way to do it because you're basically turning your life insurance from a bond into a Roth IRA that can't lose. Not a
Mm.
bad idea. And then with no 59 and a half year rule, by the way, no 10% penalty. And so what you're doing is you want to put your money in insurance company because it's safe. Now, what happens? Oh my God, what if they change our currency? It's happened before. We were on a gold standard on Monday. On Tuesday, we're not on a gold standard. What happened? Nothing. What if Joe, they're gonna bring in the new currency? Okay, so you're gonna go from US dollars to US coin, USC. Okay, it's most likely going to be a one-to-one how Tether works within crypto. That's why crypto was not created by some guy that had five different companies' names all put together in his last name. It was created by the CIA. So when you understand that they are building our financial future in front of us as we speak with crypto. Because what's the value of crypto? It's ones and zeros on a screen. What's the value of your dollar in the bank? It's ones and zeros on a screen. So what they're trying to do is they're going to try to say, okay, we're going to go to a new currency and that wipes out our debt. Does it though? Like that is what I think they're trying to do and just be like, oh, it's a reset. Well, if that's the case, that means my mortgage is wiped, my car note's wiped, Sarah's student loans are wiped. They don't want that because they don't want you out of slavery. That's what this is all about. If you are so consumed about bills and electric bills and shelter and cash and interest rates and refis and mortgages, are you getting closer to God? Are you banding together to realize you're getting screwed, to ban and fight against the evil tyranny we have called government? It's all distractions. Look at the circuses in Rome and look at MetLife Stadium. Look at Dallas Cowboy Stadium. It's the same thing. Football, basketball, people knew Derek Jeter's batting average more than they knew what their value of their 401ks were, more than they knew their children's date of birth. It's all about distraction. It's all about distraction and extraction. Your dollars, your time, your everything. And I'm not doom and gloom. What you do is you find God, you create a plan for your financial health, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, and your spiritual health. It's all you have to do. Do they teach you that in school? No. It's the easiest thing. Think about it. Think about it. What else are we? We're a soul in a flesh body. So why are we a soul in the flesh body? Well, because there's a creator. Who's the creator? It's Allah. It's an eight-armed elephant. It's Jesus. It's whatever. There's a creator because I didn't create me. So what do we do? Well, we have a physical self. We have a mental self. We have a self, an emotional self. And we got to spend money to live, or we can't live. We can't eat. We die. So it's not rocket science. Write your five selves down, what you suck at now, because I sucked at all of them, because I spent all my time worshiping the devil, aka the dollar. And as soon as I stopped worshiping the dollar and I worshiped Jesus, I made 10 times more money. So you take that down, you write it all out, and if you need to lose weight, lose weight. Stop eating. Calories in, dollars out. I want my dollars up and my calories down. It's not rocket science. It's not. You spend more time binge watching a Netflix show from Friday to Sunday. You can have all five of those plans done. And now you have ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, can you please build me a good health plan? They'll do it for you in 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey, ChatGPT, my car interest rate is 14.7. My credit score is 693. Can you find me a better deal that'll put $283 a month into my pocket that I can invest for my future self? Sure thing, Joe. Done in 10 seconds. So you can't even say it's not even laziness anymore. It's not ignorance anymore. We have everything right here, and you're still not doing it. Wake up, take control, critically think, stop relying on other people to live your life.
Yeah. I found myself on similar soapboxes before, and it's an interesting spot to be in. And you mentioned that you're taking a lot better care of your mental health. Something that um for me, sometimes my wife is concerned. She's like, you're taking on the world's problems on your shoulders. Like people like you can't control what people are doing. People are gonna do what they're gonna do. Like you're doing great. Relax. And do you feel that to some extent as well? And how do you kind of deal with that?
My wife says, "Why do you post everything on social media? Why are you growing nationally? You're already a millionaire. We already have everything we need. What are you trying to prove? Is it your self-esteem? Do you not think you're worth it? You're not getting enough thank yous, or you're not getting enough recognition at home?" I said, "Steph, my wife, this is all about my children. This is all about legacy. God gave me a gift. I am very blessed. And now my eyes are open and I can't ignore what God gave me. So I'm going out there and I'm doing everything I can to free people from chains. IRS, Wall Street, legally break free. Get those demonic bloodsuckers out of your life, and you're gonna make three, four, five times more money. Is it gonna solve all your problems? Is it gonna get your cancer away? Is it gonna make your marriage better to your wife? No, but it's going to give you the ability to hire a therapist like I did. Have a psychotherapist. I've had hypnotherapy done on me because I have mommy trauma. My mommy wanted to kill me before I was born. She left when I was 4. All I wanted was my mommy, and all my mommy wanted was drugs and alcohol. She didn't want me. So I had to go through so much pain. I had to battle things. I had to be honest with myself. I had to fight depression. I had to fight anxiety to try to give me SSRIs, and all it did was turn me into a zombie. I got out of that crap real quick. And I just, what really happened is I prayed, found Jesus, and everything stopped. The demons left me. My light got brighter. My frequency got higher. My energy was better. God put me in positions that I could dream of. Just being on your show, Eric, is a blessing. These are the things that I'm so thankful for. Like I'm interesting enough to talk for an hour and 12 minutes. Like that's cool. You didn't say, "All right, Joe, wrap it up," It's been 20 minutes. You're boring my audience to death. Like just being able to help people. That's all this is about. Give, treat thyself as thy neighbor, treat thy neighbor as thyself. Stop worrying about their color. Stop worrying about their size. Stop worrying about their height. Stop worrying about who's better. Stop being jealous of other people. Stop having false idols. Stop thinking athletes are important. Stop thinking that a musician is better than you. He's just a dude who plays a guitar or he's got auto tune. And now he's selling out stadiums. You're spending all your retirement money to go visit some guy who doesn't even know your name. So you have to prioritize, get out of the matrix that you are this infinite important person. Let me post everything on social media. My 13 followers want to know what I'm eating for dinner. Click, 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 click. It's like spend time where it benefits your present self. Stop living in the past. That's depression. Stop living in the future. That's anxiety. Live now in your present. Presently, right now, I'm healthy, I'm safe, I'm alive, my kids are safe, my wife is safe, I have my bills paid, I got money in the bank. I'm better now than I was yesterday. Am I at the shape I want to be? No, I got another 20 pounds to go. Cool. But I'm happy because I love myself now. I used to hide away from mirrors when I was 40 pounds heavier with more rolls in a bakery. And I would literally just say, you know what? I'm done with it. I'm done with it all. I'm going to do something about it because my life has been very, very hard. And I had two choices, as every one of your listeners has. Two choices. You can be the victim, or you could take everything that God gave you and the crappy crap you went through, and you can use it as fuel to be a better person and get a closer relationship to God. Those are your only options. Be a victim, boo hoo, woe is me, the world hates me, God hates me, everybody's against me. Or you can take what God gave you, use it as fuel to achieve what you want to do in this life. And you know what most people never do? Is figure out what the hell they want to do. That's number one before all of this. Well, who are you? What do you want to be? What is your talents? What are you good at? And spend your time doing that. That's in your DNA. That's in your blood. That's in your programming as a human. That's the gift God gave you. Use it. I'm
Yeah.
really good at organizing. Well, find somebody who's not. Like my fourth book coming out, 7 + 7 = 20, is going to be about people finding the three things they're weak at and finding somebody who's strong at those three things, and the person that they meet is weak at three things they're strong at. So therefore, a 7 + 7 = 20. That's how we grow. That's how we elevate. This isn't me. This is my Bible study guy. This is one of my great friends who's a psychotherapist. This is my psychiatrist. This is everything that I went through because my dad wasn't there. My mom wasn't there. I grew up in the streets. My friends wanted to do drugs, steal, smash mailboxes, egg houses. They weren't beneficial to my long-term health. Everything was asking, opening up, being vulnerable. Something most people are too scared to do. Ask for help. Hey, I'm failing at this. I'm failing at my marriage. I'm failing at my relationship with God. I'm failing financially. I'm failing with my weight. I'm failing with my health. My blood. I just had my blood done. My cholesterol's 99. I was like, it was 201 4 months ago. My triglycerides are 90. I was like, what the hell? Like, I was like, that's awesome, right? And I was using alcohol to numb a lot of my pain. My liver is perfectly healthy. My kidneys are perfectly healthy. Yeah, Joe, you're only 41, about to be 42. If you knew the life I lived with the drugs I've taken, the food I've eaten, I didn't work out. I sat on this damn computer chair for 10 hours a day for 20 years building my business and only worrying about money because I was living in scarcity. Now I live in abundance. And it's a different mindset. It changes everything. It changes your mood. It's I call it the red car syndrome. If you own a red car, what do you see on the road? Nothing but red cars. Did you see them before you bought that car? No. That's to me, that's called Jesus's way. You bring Jesus in your life, now what do you see? Nothing but blessed people. You build relationships with blessed people. You change people's lives. People know who you are because the value you brought them. That is now people are gonna know, oh, Joe's a good guy. Let me look him up online. There's not one bad thing written about me for my whole career.
Mm.
And that's powerful when I'm handling people's life savings. And that's something that I took and worked on every day to get to this point where I can be on really cool guys' podcasts like yours.
You don't have to lie to me, Joe. We're not- Um, Last sort of practical question, because I think that was a really good way to wrap it up, and I was trying to figure out a way to fit this in earlier, but didn't. So, as far as home ownership goes, I see, right, you mentioned you don't want to be in debt, but at the same time, you need a place to live, and rent, depending on where you are, you can either be considered throwing money away to some other landlord, or you can build equity into something that you can hold on. But so there's both
The
sides of
balance.
that.
Mhm.
Where are you on that? Is that a situation by situation basis, or how would you recommend that people look at that decision if that is coming up on their horizon?
So the way I look at houses, number one, your primary house is a liability. You're going to spend a lot of money on it. I dumped over $1 million into my house in the last 15 months. Pools, I have a hot tub, I have a sauna, I have a $250,000 driveway with a basketball hoop for my boys to play on. It's all slate. It's freaking cool as hell, but it's not an asset. You're not going to return a profit usually in a house, right? Well, the house value went up. Well, how many COVIDs are there going to be where they print more money than the existence of the 100 years before, right? So yes, if you want to take the effect as the cause, have at it. But usually it's not, if you look historically. So when you look at it, owning your house or renting, owning's always better 10 out of 10 times. Why? You can't kick yourself out of the house. If you fall 10 months behind, the foreclosure takes a long time. There's remodification programs to keep you in your house. But what happens is people, what they do is they say, "Oh, I bought a house, now I gotta furnish it. I got any couches, TVs, mirrors, decorations." Well, that ain't cheap. So people just think, "Oh, well, my rent was 1,400 and now my mortgage is 1,800. It's only $400." Well, no, your square footage more most likely. You're not usually going to buy a smaller house than where you're renting. I mean, maybe, but not traditionally. So it's going to cost more, and you have to be prepared for that, and you have to be realistic. So owning is always better than renting unless you have a job where you can work from anywhere and you don't want to stay somewhere long, right? Because you don't want to buy a house in '05 and then have a wait happen. And then now you can't even sell the house. Now your equity's underwater. Now your loan's called from the banks. You lost your 3.5% you put down on your FHA loan. You shouldn't have a lot of cash when you bought your house. And now they're stealing your house from you and you get nothing. So there's always risk. So you have to balance that out. The way I look at it, if you have no credit card debt, you are what I call disciplined uh, investor or financial person, similar to fit guys I see at the gym that are disciplined. They eat clean, they work out. Do that. If you're with that with your finances, buy a house. Have at it because you earned it. But thinking buying a house is going to somehow make you rich, it's not. A primary residence will never make you rich because it just costs too much. Things break. I got to redo the roof. I bought this house. The furnace went in the second week. You know how much a furnace is for a 4,000
Very
square foot house?
expensive.
It was $30,000.
Oh.
That was my down payment. That and they didn't have a 30-year term at the plumbing company, HVAC company. So that crippled me. I had to put that on a credit card at 26.99. I think I probably paid the insurance company 55 grand for that furnace with interest. So you have to understand there's strategies. You need a savings, ideally 6 to 12 months of your monthly bills liquid. Now you can use my strategy, the IUL, for that. 'Cause you just lean the money out the next day, and there's your cash, there's your savings. But if you don't have it in the IUL, you need to have it in the bank, right? And most people don't do that. They live paycheck to paycheck. Let's put it this way: if you've paid an overdraft fee in the last 6 months, do not buy a house.
Yeah, good rule of thumb. Fair enough. Um, this conversation has taken us all over the place. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If people are interested in learning more about you or what you got going on, where should they go to find you and also your books?
Yeah, so I'm willing to give all three of my books. There's two articles from Forbes magazine on my strategy. So it's not buylifeinsurance.com. It's called A Rich Person's Roth, Forbes, if you want to Google it yourself. But I'll send you the links to that. I'll send you links to my website, links to my podcast I've done at the Dave Hodges Common Sense Show, my link to my 26 episodes on Apple Music, Money Talk with Iron Hawk I had as a radio show. My podcast is coming out, so if you want to subscribe to Money Talk at moneytalkwithironhawk.com, that's going to be post all my personal podcasts, come out all about money, different subjects about the government and whatnot. If you want to receive everything, just write an email to info, info, at iron, like the metal, hawk, like the bird, financial.com. Info at ironhawkfinancial.com. That'll trigger, if you just write, hi, I heard you on Eric's show, whatever, it'll trigger the email system to send you everything, the books, articles, magazines, website. Put your phone number there. Somebody from my team will reach out to you. It's absolutely free. If you want to look into a 7702 plan, it doesn't cost a penny. If you have an old IRA, 401k sitting there, you're getting nailed with fees. It hasn't really grown, even though the market's up 30% in the last 12 months, hasn't grown that. That means you're paying 4 or 5% in fees because you detached yourself from the tax ID discount you were getting when you were employed there. So if you have an old account you need some help with, reach out. We'll tell you, hey, it's not enough. Usually you need 25,000 minimum to do something with it on that end for the rollover end. But yeah, and we're on all social medias, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or now X, TikTok at Ironhawk Financial, at Money Talk at Ironhawk or with Ironhawk. And that's where you can find me. Follow me, look me up, and read my reviews on Google. I have a lot of cool ones. I work with a lot of cool people. But yeah, just Google Ironhawk Financial, go to the website, ironhawkfinancial.com. I'm trying to build as many ways I can for people to learn this. Do they have to do it? No. But should you learn about it? Yeah. So, and that's what I'm trying to get out as much as I can.
Perfect, perfect. For those listening, links will be in the description as always. There's one thing that you mentioned as well, which is you want to get the word out to the most amount of people as possible. And this is even like when I started this 6 years ago, 6 years ago now. I knew I didn't know all that much, but I knew that I can ask good questions and have people who have the information to share it with people, and that was one of the reasons why I started this as well. So, ethos has matched itself up, but very happy to have the conversation. Do you have any last nickels before we get you out of here?
Um, just if you don't have a good relationship with, if you're not living the life you want to, as I wasn't for 39 years, making a ton of money doesn't make you happy. Um, find a God. I think Jesus is the one, but find a higher power. Have a relationship with someone bigger than you, and have a little buddy. And don't and praying is I know it sounds corny. I'm not trying to be a Jehovah Witness over here or anything, but having like a relationship with a God, or in my situation Jesus, it makes your life better. It can't make your life worse. It literally can't. If you didn't take a single advice from the financial thing I said and you only want to have a strong relationship with Jesus, I did my job. So that's how it ended.
Yeah, great place to wrap it up. For those listening, links will be in the description as always. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.